2018 was a pretty wild time for DC Comics. The massive Dark Knight Smelt event ended, which had and still does have massive ramifications on the DC Universe today. Thanks, Batman. The superhero community was rocked by the tragic events of heroes in crisis, especially those directly tied to the fallen heroes, such as Green Arrow, The Flash, and Red Hood. One hero who didn't die in the event, but had his own crisis, was Nightwing. Back in September 2018, Nightwing's world was turned upside down when he took a bullet in the head at the hands of KG Beast in Batman 55. What was supposed to be a friend aiding another during a difficult time turned into a major switch in Nightwing's status quo. Since then, Dick Grayson has been suffering from amnesia and ditched the Nightwing persona and the personal connections attached to it, resulting in consequences that carried over into other comics, some more serious than others, and there's only one person responsible for it all. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Roliver Queen, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the ripple effect of Tom King killing Nightwing. Oh boy, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you're always in the loop whenever I drop new videos. Also, just want to give a shout out to my sponsor, well, future sponsors for my videos, Bacardi. Do what moves you. Bacardi sure does move me. So if you're going out this weekend, definitely be sure to have some Bacardi and enjoy it responsibly. Before Batman 55, Nightwing's Dark Web storyline was reaching its climax. Nightwing finally met Kamalkinus, who's responsible for space and time coming together. Nightwing attempts to get him to stop the Dark Web events, which he declines, but instead allows Nightwing to buy time, thus quote-unquote ending the storyline, but on a cliffhanger. At the bottom of the last page of the issue, readers were explicitly told to read/buy Batman 55 because Nightwing would be headed back to Gotham, which is what he needed to buy time for, and it's there where a massive change would occur. Now on to Batman 55. At this point, Nightwing had been around for a couple of issues in Batman. Batman was big sad boys because a couple issues back in Batman 50, he was left at the altar by Catwoman. Nightwing returned to Gotham for two reasons. One was to take over Bruce's spot as Batman while he was at jury duty, and the other reason was to help him cheer up / be a shining light in such a trying time. At the end of Batman 55, when Nightwing and Batman were being briefed by Commissioner Gordon, KG Beast, who was hired by Bane, shot Nightwing in the head. And he died. Well, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications because you know what? I just don't want to talk about this anymore. Nah, I'm just kidding. But luckily enough, Nightwing survived because there's no way killing off such an awesome character in the DC Universe would go over well, right? But severely damaging his continuity and arguably that of other books is surely okay. Now let's take a look at the aftermath of the shooting, starting with Nightwing 50. Dick Grayson recovers from the shooting, but he can't seem to remember anything prior to that moment. And he begins suffering blackouts where he'd wake up in odd situations, such as some random person's couch or an underground fight. Barbara Gordon comes into the picture and tries to get him to remember his past and to reach out to his friends in the Bat family and Titans for help. But Dick Grayson, now Rick Grayson, refuses to have anything to do with his past, and he even goes as far as to attempt to burn his old suits. This fails, and it's a group of Bloodhaven cops who find the suits and form a team called the Nightwings to combat crime in Bloodhaven. Rick Grayson manages to retain his acrobatic abilities and his drive to stop crime and eventually teams up with the Nightwings, but as his own separate hero. It was clear as day now that the Nightwing that we knew and loved would not be coming back anytime soon. King was able to satisfy his agenda in Batman, but at the cost of not only harming Nightwing's continuity, but making things a bit difficult for whoever was writing him after. It's interesting to note too that on the Gotham by Geeks podcast, King said that he did have a pitch for Nightwing post Batman 55 where Tim Drake would take over Dick's place as Nightwing, while helping him recover. Ultimately, this pitch was rejected. Chances are this was due to Brian Bendis already having plans for Tim Drake and Young Justice. Regardless, the damage was done, and the first Nightwing writer to be affected by this was Benjamin Percy. Prior to issue 50, Benjamin Percy, who was writing Nightwing, was suddenly taken off the book, stating that issue 50, which would take place after the events of Batman 55, would be his last. His Dark Web storyline would not be completed, and he'd have no choice but to pick up the huge broken piece that King left behind in his last issue. Before leaving the book, Percy did just that by setting up the Rick Grayson storyline, which the next writers would have to work with. Scott Lobdell and Fabian Nicieza were up next to write Nightwing, and they embraced the challenge that lied in front of them. In an interview with Newsarama, both explained that while it would have been easier to undo what King did to Nightwing in Batman 55, it would have been a disservice to what happened to him, and the decision was made to expand and grow on the Rick Grayson character, stating that Barbara Gordon's journey with paralysis is what influenced that decision. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of this new direction at first, but after this interview, it makes a lot of sense, so I do commend him for deciding to stick this out and seeing what they could do with the Rick Grayson character during their time on the book, and admittedly with their help, I was able to warm up to the change and slowly let go of my bias towards the character. Dan Jurgens would then take over Nightwing, and using the groundwork set by the previous writers, he is currently crafting some of the best issues the title has seen in a while, thus reigniting my love for the book. The Titans written by Dan Abnett, which also featured Nightwing, didn't have such a luxury. The Titans had just gone through some major changes, one of them being the new lineup that came post Dark Knight's Metal. This new lineup consisted of the originals who were Nightwing and Donna Troy, with the new recruits such as Beast Boy, Steel, and Raven. This new team will be working alongside the Justice League to deal with the rising metahuman transformations as a result of the Source Wall breaking. This was definitely a step in the right direction, especially for a book which up until that point had no real purpose. The momentum Dan Abnett had with this new team would only last 4 issues, and unfortunately, just like Percy, Lobdo, and Aziza, he had to honor the change in continuity set by Tom King, and Nightwing, one of the main faces of Titans, was immediately cut from the team in issue 27. Dan Abnett would try his best to steer the ship without its main captain, and even joked that King had it out for him, especially since King killed off Roy Harper in Heroes in Crisis, but sales dipped immediately, and it continued to do so until DC pulled the plug on the comic and canceled it back in April 2019. Brian Bendis also would face some trouble when it came to Nightwing's continuity as well, but luckily nothing as major as the previous writers that I spoke of. In the Event Leviathan Prelude in Action Comics 1011, Superman and Lois Lane approach Huntress with details that they learned about Leviathan, but according to Bendis, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. On Twitter, he states that he originally planned for it to be Nightwing instead of Huntress, since Dick Grayson was a member of Spyro, one of the organizations that Leviathan was after. He changed it to Huntress in order to honor the continuity set in place by King. To wrap this video up, hopefully you can see now just how much Tom King killing Nightwing caused more harm than good. It was seemingly pointless and messed up when you kind of see how things are looking up for Batman. Despite the failed wedding being a part of Bane's plan, Batman and Catwoman ended up reuniting, and they're even getting their own miniseries to close out King's run. Batman is getting what we can assume is a happy ending on this run, but at the cost of his homie suffering a traumatic injury, and the writers struggling to deal with the aftermath. Oh well. Luckily enough, the main Nightwing book has managed to gain some type of momentum again thanks to Jurgens. The next batch of issues sound really promising, and it's safe to say right now that I'm on board with the Rick Grayson storyline. Rick Grayson just wants to be his own hero without the baggage of a life he can't remember and enjoy a chill life with his boo thing. I gotta respect it, to be honest. But rest assured, for those who don't, there is hope. If you haven't heard, James Tynion will be taking over Batman after King's run is done with Batman 85, and one of his plans is to restore Dick Grayson back as Nightwing. As much as I enjoy the Rick Grayson storyline, I and many others miss Dick Grayson and Nightwing, so I can't wait for this to happen. So let me know what you guys think about this ripple effect. Did I miss any comics affected by Nightwing's shooting? Also, go off and really tell me how you feel about Rick Grayson. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Also, check out the other videos of my channel. Roliver Queen out.